Hey guys, and welcome to a battle featuring myself in charge of a vanguard force of Wood Elves up against Seafood Noodles, one of the coolest named players in the game here, coming in with the forces of the Skaven on Glacial Lake. Remember guys, if by the end of this video you do indeed enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe for more Total War content in the future. Now I'm going to be pausing this as this is going to be an incredibly quick game one way or the other, as we are trying a full-on Wood Elf vanguard build, which certainly has some teeth and is very kind of 50-50 on if it's going to be able to be pulled off and work here. So for our forces in the front line we do have Dryads, mainly because they can vanguard, unlike Eternal Guard. However, Dryads can do some pretty decent work in this matchup. You can see we've added chevrons to them, and that's because we need to try and hit as many targets as possible in one go with Vanguard, swarm through the enemy, shut down their key backline units, where we then can kind of mop up the rest of their forces. So Dryads are for a front line. In the Cav contingent, we do have Wild Riders, 2 units in fact, one with shields and one being the Wild Hunters of Kurnos, a regiment of renowned version with anti-large, which is pretty key. They can go toe-to-toe with rat ogres and the like, and at the same time, you know, they're still Wild Riders, they can run over troops with pretty good ease. We have one unit of Sisters of Thorn in the back lines. This is to mainly help out with their abilities, which is the Curse, as well as Shield of Thorns to help protect, and kind of new to the effectiveness of my opponent. We also have Double Waywatcher, which is something I was a little bit hesitant to bring here, especially in the full Vanguard build, where I won't really be able to protect them too easily, but I was hoping my opponent would be struggling to deal with kind of my big old rush, that they're going to have to leave the Waywatchers behind. But they're here to help deal with Hellpit Abominations, and also to focus fire down Rat Ogres and Doom Wills and the like. We have a Branch Wraith currently facing the wrong way with Shield of Thorns, Earthblood, and the Shield of Scrolling, and also Orion showing his back to the enemy. These rats aren't worth his time, he says as he turns around, bringing, of course, the Horn of the Wild Hunt, Hounds of Orion, and the Hawk's Talon. And the Horn of the Wild Hunt is going to be huge here. If I can pop that as the Vanguard hits, that plus 54% charge bonus will allow me to shred through the enemy. And of course, we have Cloak of Isha. Now for my opponent's force, he's certainly not expecting the Vanguard here. You can see he's deployed trying to face the front, and he has a ton of Night Runner Slingers who could be a big pest for me in a normal matchup. They'll be able to go toe-to-toe with Waywatchers and the like and push them back, make them waste their ammunition on targets they don't really want to attack. Apart from that, he's gone for a ton of cheap and cheerful Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats dotted all the way around. Again, they're pretty expendable, there to soak up missile pressure, so certainly expecting a long-range build from myself coming in here. He has double Poisoned Wind Mortars, fantastic counters to Waywatchers and Archers alike. For his Leadership Core, Leadership Core, almost said Leadership Claw there, because it is indeed Itic Claw, coming in with unlimited power, Brass Orb, as well as Howling Warp Gale, trying to pin any flies in place. And then we have a ton of Rat Ogres, it looks like 3 in fact, as well as double Triads, one of which is Ishka's Triads. Fantastic counter to Wild Riders if they can get them nice and pinned in. We also have an Eshin Sorcerer as well. He's going to be coming in with just a few spells, so going for the double Wizard here is certainly viable. Coming in with the old Skitter Leap as well as Warp Stars. Should be able to do some pretty decent work, and without further ado, let's get this battle underway. So we are going to be launching our first volley. It looks like it goes into the back of the Ishka's Triads there. But we are going to be switching our target to the Rat Ogres, realising pretty early on that they are going to be the main threat. And here we come, guys, the clash 15 seconds into the game, and we're already in glorious combat as the Wild Hunters of Kurnos with the Horn of the Wild Hunt active charge into a massive death blob. We're going to take this opportunity to drop the Hawk's Talons as well as Hounds into this big old mix. You can see the Wild Hunters are suffering, but at the same time Dryads doing massive damage in this central blob. Looks like my opponent has managed to get the Poison Wind Mortars into a better position. Popped Skitter Leap on them to increase their speed so they can escape. And over on the far side, the Clan Rats are simply being overrun here by a mixture of Wild Riders and the mighty Orion. In the centre pocket, we did just hammer through those Rat Ogres there, breaking off 2 units. In retaliation, though, we did lose the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. We've now pushed into the back line with the Dryads, clearing through the chaff of Skaven Slaves. We did indeed drop the Curse as well as Shield of Thorns here to really try and help punish my opponent and break through. Ishka's Triads currently receiving some of that fire coming in from the Waywatchers. Skaven are on full retreat, but I can't really spare too many troops to chase them all down, so they certainly could rally here. As on the left-hand flank, we have Dryads chasing down 2 units, getting some good value, stopping those guys from recovering. My opponent is trying to pull back with his Poison Wind Mortars where possible here to try and get some nice Overwatch fire. And one unit has been firing consistently throughout the battle. Not got many kills, but doing pretty decent work all round, slowing me down and doing HP damage all round. We've lost a few units as well who are unfortunately running for the hills. Double Way Watchers are now trying to focus down Itic Claw, who has, unfortunately for himself, found himself in a bit of a duel here with Orion, who's a deadly combatant. You don't want to be fighting Orion if you're Itic Claw, even on his really awesome little Doom Flayer here. He's indeed going to be terrified, but he's going to be able to sneak away and come back into the fray at a later position here. Ishika's Triads have been forced back, but Double Rat Ogres are going to be returning to the field. Wild Riders have now started to reeve into the back lines, shutting down the Poisoned Wind Mortars, and they'll easily be able to overrun these guys, although Eshin Triads are here as well to try and pin in and help deal with the Wild Riders. In the distance, Triads still getting some good value, chasing off those units and keeping themselves nice and healthy for the late game. Double Rat Ogres are going to come in now, trying to pound down the Sisters of Thorn, who are very wisely going to retreat here and just throw some javelins from long range. No need to engage these troops if we don't have to. And that's what the Way Watchers are thinking as well, as they're going to start to unleash a couple of volleys here into the Rat Ogres to pin them in and try to do some damage here. Orion is charging as well, roaring victorious as he comes in here and gets a nice little stab, sending one little poor Knight Runner flying there. Looks like, for the most part, Itic Claw has rallied, but a ton of his troops are shattered, and it is looking very bleak here for the Skaven forces, as he does kind of try to rally back in and perhaps manage to do some decent damage, as he does drop a Brass Orb on the Way Watchers, but you can see, especially against troops in skirmish mode, it doesn't really do much damage at all, as these last Rat Ogres are currently put to bed, as they are in fact shattered before filled with a couple more arrows anyway, just for good measure. At this point, Itic Claw trying to charge in. Looks like the Eshin Sorcerer does throw some Ninja Stars at Orion, but at this point, my opponent is going to throw in the Tau here. As you can see, most of the Skaven are off the field, bar kind of one or two little stragglers here. So, well played to my opponent. It was a wild game indeed. I'm going to do a little bit of analysis. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up, comment and subscribe, all that general good YouTube and stuff. And in the description, you can find links to my Discord and other ways to support the channel. Anyway, well played to Seafood Noodles. Unfortunately for him, got caught really off guard here, got countered quite heavily. I wasn't originally going to show this replay, as it did end up being a little bit one-sided. And it was like a bit of a close game, but I think it's a really good example of how Wood Elf ambushes can work perfectly, especially against an opponent who wasn't prepared for them. As you can see from his build, the mixture of Night Runners and Poisoned Wind Mortars would have done fantastic damage up against a traditional kind of shooty Wood Elf build here, just trying to out-skirmish the Skaven. And the Eshin Triads as well can be used to force back Wild Riders, but when they all come clattering into you in the back line, it's certainly a real struggle. But Seafood Noodles, real cool dude, was talking to him beforehand and a little bit after the game, and I believe he does in fact host Total War Warhammer tournaments, so certainly get in touch with him on Discord if you are interested in those type of events. As for the force of the Wood Elves here, Dryads were probably the real MVPs, coming in with decent kills across the board and managing to swarm over and break through those Skaven slaves and Clan Rats incredibly quickly. They weren't obviously able to onion in time because of the full Vanguard in the back. The Wild Hunters and Colonels did a nice sacrifice. They went down very early on to Rat Ogres, managed to pin in quite a few units and allowed Orion to drop the base with the Horn of Talons there, as well as his Hounds, breaking apart that Skaven build and allowing me into the cookie jar, where I could then overrun the Poison Wind Mortars before they did too much damage. In a build like this, I'm not sure if the Way Watchers are perfectly worth it, but I like them as kind of a countermeasure, just in case there are Hell Pit Abominations, as we'd really struggle to deal with them apart from for Orion and the Wild Hunters, and the Wild Hunters obviously got shut down very quickly, so that kind of leaves quite a lot of work for the mighty Orion to do indeed. But the Way Watchers did okay work, managing to pin in a few Rat Ogres and did some consistent damage, and you know, they weren't able to be targeted either because there was so much pressure on my opponent here. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this nice quick game, and it was a pretty fun one indeed. So yeah, until next time guys, peace, and as always, stay awesome.